This is a photo of what we called the Loft. In the 1970s, it was where Fulton and Ferd, Gale, lived. We all had Farkle names back then. If you wonder what are Farkles, check out Laugh-In. Since there were so many zebras, people lived in the main house, in the studio house, in a converted barn, a pond house, even a potting shed. Fulton and Ferd's loft was above a garage connected to a barn. They had installed skylights. This is where Fulton wrote The Fourth Tower of Inverness and Moon over Morocco. He sat in a chair with a board across his lap and hand-wrote the scripts. He didn't own a typewriter. As you can see, they carpeted the floor with rug samples. The ceiling and wallboard hadn't been put up yet. That's what this story is about. About 2 years after this photo was taken, everyone was watching a horror movie on television. There was a baby crying out in a barn, but there was no baby. If you heard it and went out to the barn to investigate, look out. Now, the barn garage where Fulton and Ferd lived was about 100 yards from the main house and even further from the studio house. Later that night, around 2 a.m., Fulton woke up hearing a baby crying. He got out of bed, turned on a light, but the crying had stopped. He was about to go back to sleep when he heard it crying again. At this point, Ferd was awake. She was listening too. Well, look, we're in the recording business, so Fulton figured someone was standing outside with a portable recorder playing a baby crying. The moon was out, fresh snow had fallen, but there were no footprints anywhere. So then he thought, maybe they ran speaker wires from the studio to the barn. But he couldn't find wires or a speaker. There was no more crying, so they went back to bed. About 10 minutes later, there it was again. Fulton said the baby was crying right in the middle of the room, I swear to God. At this point, they were both feeling a little uneasy. He said to Ferd, I think we should leave. She agreed. As they were putting on their coat, suddenly Looney Tunes came blasting out with, that's all, folks. Fulton stomped over to the studio, and sure enough, in the control room were Bobby and Richard laughing themselves silly. On one turntable was a sound effects record of a baby. On the other turntable, Looney Tunes. Bobby had mounted a speaker in the loft way back when Fulton was putting the wallboard up, so it was now hidden inside the ceiling. Fulton couldn't find any wires connecting the loft to the studio because Bobby ran it through the phone lines to the loft. And by reversing the wires on the speaker, he turned it into a microphone. You could do that with a speaker. And he could listen to Fulton and Ferd talking about what to do, so he knew exactly when to bring up Looney Tunes. And get this, Bobby had waited 2 years before he had found the perfect time to pull his prank. Fulton has yet to get even. When he found the speaker and removed it, he asked Bobby, are there any more? Bobby assured him, no, just the one. Fulton didn't trust him, so he tore down part of the ceiling, and he found a second speaker. Because of the slanted ceiling, with a speaker mounted on each side, it did sound like a baby was crying at the foot of their bed.